Morning, Tubes. This one's about logic, truth, true and false, yes and no, and the fallacy of absolute truth. So, this logic idea that man has come up with, a 0 and 1 state processing, right? True and false. But if you've ever written low-level computer software, it's bits. It's single bits. It's a 0 or a 1 from a memory location somewhere. But that's not true, because the computer is accessing a word. And the word has 32 or 64 bits now. That's how wide the bus is on a device. So the computer's sitting there looking at 64 zeros and ones. And it may do a true or false evaluation on it, right? Those zeros and ones can be characters, human readable characters. They can be machine-specific words that only the machine understands. If bit number 17 in your 64-bit word is high, maybe you want to do something. So you can make a decision on a single bit in that word, or you might look at that word as an integer, a value. Okay, all those individual bits, their location in the word means something. We're still in zeros and ones though, right? How did the zeros and ones get so complicated? So this binary computer, this has been the challenge with computers. It's kind of what makes them so simple. They only operate on zeros and ones. We have yet to develop a tri-state computer so it can operate on 0, 1, or 2. And part of it is we can't functionally think of how to make that work, what that third choice is, or the necessity of the third choice, or how to operate in the third choice. So our bits are 0 and 1s, but the word is 64 bits for use sake. There's other words out there, other word lengths out there. And then there's bus lengths, which can be different than word lengths, because the bus might have or does have interrupts on it for other devices to say, hey, stop and do me. So those zeros and ones, again, true and false, good and bad, evil and sin, and all of the other ways you can word these things. It can make it confusing. So that 0 and 1, what does that mean? It's true or false. It's off or on. It's your light bulb, right? It's that simple a choice. But the world is not zeros or ones. On one level, the world's composed of about 90 base elements we've identified in the periodic table. So there's 90 choices that nature had to build the human body, and it only used a dozen of those, essentially, but it needs a bunch of the rest. So there's no 0 or 1 to you being here. It's a whole bunch of different things that happen to put you together. So the false choice is put in front of you, true or false. Is this an absolute good or bad, absolute evil? So if you have a false, if you say, no, I don't think it's evil, and then you go to the other, is it true? So you've said it's not false, it must be true, but that true has degrees of truthiness, right? So before that true or false look is some kind of measurement. 0 to 10, 0 to 11 on a scale. So is 7 true or false on the scale? What was the scale again? This is the challenge of backing out of that true or false dichotomy, that false position that people try to put you in of true or false, when the answer might be a little bit more, there's a good word for this somewhere, nuanced, let's say. So there's a shitty conversation about truth tables, right? 0 and 1. Sit down and write a truth table. Try a tri-state truth table. All right, now you're playing tic-tac-toe. To find out if something's true or false, you have to have all the X's in a row. And there's some diagonal choices that could appear not true, and yet it's true. You won tic-tac-toe. So there's a tri-state, which isn't a true tri-state note. So, all right, just made true and false harder to come to. Almost takes a jury to help make a decision on some of these things. Maybe that's why we have juries, right? To avoid a true or false decision when it needs to be a good decision. Yeah, well, coffee morning. True or false?